I was doing a workshop for some teachers last week, and it's still surprising to me the lack of knowledge and just the conversation and talking about tribal sovereignty and having people be very resistant to the notion of the tribe making decisions about itself, you know, the whole notion of self-determination, that we have the right to determine who we are, we have the right to define ourselves, we have the right to say how we will live in this place, how we will develop it or not, how we will engage in economic development. It's very difficult for people that live here because Indian people are in the minority. And so there's a huge amount of resistance to the concept of self-governance, you know, the tribe governing. And there's a huge amount of resistance to tribal ordinance that non-Indians have to follow, such as getting a recreation permit, honoring tribal property. You know, tribal property is the most abused property here. And I'm of a little more radical thought. I think we should close a lot of the places that are over-abused. Well, over-abused, that's kind of repetitive. That are more intensely abused than others, I guess. If I was the decider, I would close down large pieces of the river corridor, and I'd close down campsites and pieces of land where they're just tearing the land up with off-road vehicles and dumping garbage. And because the tribe has been so generous in that the Mission Mountains is open, you know, other than the Jocko Primitive area, the South Fork, you know, it's open. People can go there, they can go on the mountain trails, they can enjoy the tribal wilderness. But I couldn't go on somebody's tribal private property and enjoy their little grove of forest. Well, they'd throw me off. Well, certainly if I brought a bunch of garbage there and dumped it, I'd really get in trouble. But tribal land is very abused by a lot of people here. But they feel they have a right to use it because the tribe has been very generous and hospitable. And so the whole notion of land is still really important and significant in a temporary sense, and how the tribe will manage the landscape that we have left, that we're able to take care of. And so I'm proud that we have a tribal wilderness area, that we're one of the, I think one of 2 tribes in the United States that manage a large section of land as wilderness. That's quite remarkable, I think, and speaks to our value and care and affection and attachment to the land. So if the tribe closed all their land off to only tribal members, perhaps the huge development that we see happening might slow it down a little bit if people felt that they weren't going to have access to all of our land. I don't know. People say that's too radical. And I think when we talk about environment that we're probably not, none of us are ever radical enough to really do what we need to protect the environment.